Hi, my name is Emily Warren, and I am the Administrator for Student Involvement. Today's presentation will go over how to write a constitution and bylaws for your organization. This presentation will go over the elements required in a constitution per section N of the Texas Tech Student Handbook. This presentation is an example of what you can include in your document. However, orgs are not expected to model the Constitution word for word from this example. Rather, this presentation is a guide of how to articulate each article. Remember that each org constitution should be individualized based on your organization's operations. You may add additional articles, but please ensure that the following elements are included in your constitution. These are the 10 required elements of a constitution bylaws document, the first one being name and purpose, membership requirements, selection process, member accountability, and removal process, anti-discriminatory statement, the office titles and duties, such as president and treasurers that are required, officer election and removal process, departmental and/or external relationships, financial procedures, procedures for decision-making, faculty and staff advisor selection process and expectations, and parliamentary authority. So the first one is the name and purpose. This is simply an easy thing that you can come up with. For an example, we have the Tech Bubble Blowing Society, which is our organization name. And the purpose of this organization is to bring together Texas Tech students who enjoy blowing bubbles or who are interested in participating in bubble blowing competitions. This purpose can be 1 to 2 sentences, short and sweet, of the purpose of the organization. The second requirement is membership requirement. So this is where you list out how an org member can become an org member and what are the requirements to maintain membership. So in this case, members must be interested in the art of blowing bubbles. They must present the organization and Texas Tech in a positive light at all times. Members must be undergraduate and graduates, students of any major, things like that. So this can look as much as 3 bullet points, 5 bullet points. It can be as long or it's going to be as short. We do want to be inclusive to all, so making sure that we aren't excluding any specific majors or any students. So we make sure that we're including everyone on that. The anti-discriminatory statement can be word for word from this in terms of changing the org name and then following with the different statement that is listed below. Our next section is how is the selection process of a membership accounted for. So is this where they have to request membership through TechConnect, or is there a sign-up form that they have to complete? Is there a questionnaire that they have to complete before becoming a member? Are there any requirements in terms of reaching a certain GPA? Things like that. Another one that we want to include is the accountability and a removal process. So in case a member is in a situation where there needs to be accountability held, or if they're in the process of being removed, what does that process look like? So that could be any member or officer can submit a member in violation of the organization purpose form, and then having the officers or the advisor go over that form and coming to a consensus of whether or not there should be repercussions of what the member did in the organization. And then this is just a continuous of that accountability and removal process, so making sure that you have maybe a process of first there's a warning, and then the second one is a probation, and then the third one leads to a removal. So each of those processes should explain how that situation can come about and how it is handled. The next element is the officer titles and duties. So this is where you list out all officers and their duties pertaining to that position. Obviously, we have to have a president and a treasurer in the officer board, and so we want to make sure that all duties are listed pertaining to that. Some duties may overlap with other officers, but just making sure that you guys include that in your constitution. So officer election, how is there a process for the election of nominating new officers? So that could either be a poll on Tech Connect, or it can be a group message poll. We just want to make sure that there is a voting going on, and then making sure that there is fair democracy in terms of fair selection. And so how is it going to look like? Is an individual going to be nominated and then they're put on a ballot, and then people from the organization members vote on that ballot? Or is it a, officer vote, things like that? So it's just things to consider. This is also pertaining to officer removal. So officer removal and membership removal should be different. They should not be the same. Officer removal needs to have a checks and balance in terms of, an example is, what if a president is being asked to be removed? Who is that final vote or final say of that removal of the position? Right? So we want to make sure that we have that checks and balances. That could look like, there's a 2/3 vote within the executive board, and then maybe the advisor has the final vote of that removal or not. Departmental and/or external relationship. This is optional, where if you are in partnership with a college, such as maybe your departmental partnership is the Rawls business, you would list out Rawls business and then describe that partnership. That could be the Rawls business provides multiple workshops for us, or they host workshops for us, right? An external relationship, this is optional. If you don't have an external relationship, you can simply state the Texas Tech Blowing Society does not have a relationship with any external community offices or businesses, right? So things like that. The financial procedures, ideally this is where you list out how the funds are going to be handled in your organization. So how are the funds going to be collected? First of all, are there going to be any funds collected in terms of dues? If not, then you don't have to say that. If there is, then you need to list out how you're collecting those dues. Where is that money going? Who's in charge of that? Who's going to be managing those funds? Are you guys going to have the funds in a bank account? Is it going to be on one of a money maker platforms such as Cash App or Venmo? These are things that we have to consider. The other one is documentation. It's very, very important that you have a section going over how you're going to be documenting the funds that are coming in and out of the organization. And then a good section to include is, in the event the organization ceased to exist, where is the funds going to go? How are you going to manage that funds? Who is able to go back and open the bank account or to get the funds, things like that. Procedures for decision making. This is considered the quorum. So this is where, how are we going to come to a consensus of a decision that we want to make? Is it going to be a 3/4 vote? Is it going to be a all majority votes consensus, things like that? And then how are you guys voting? Is it only going to be members that are voting? Is it just going to be the officers that are voting? Is it everyone in the organization that's voting? And then the process of voting, is it going to be through electronics? Is it going to be pen and paper? Is it going to be through the ayes or the nays? Things like that. The advisor selection process and expectations. This is where officers should have already talked to their advisor and listing out that selection process in terms of coming up with an advisor for the organization, and then listing out the responsibilities or expectations of that advisor for the organization. So that could look like the advisor has to attend at least one general meeting throughout the month or throughout the semester, or they have to attend 1 or 2 events hosted by the organization, right? So we just want to list out what that expectation is of the advisor within the organization. Lastly, you want to go over parliamentary authority, which just explains how you're going to conduct y'all's general meetings. So you can actually replace the organization name here and copy the statement word for word. So an example is the Tech Bubble Blowing Society shall use Robert's Rule of Order, current edition, as its authority on parliamentary procedures. If you guys have any other questions, you guys are more than welcome to email us at studentorgs@tcu.edu, or you can give us a call at 806-742-5433. Or if you'd like to come visit us in our office to discuss how to write a constitution or bylaws, you guys are more than welcome to. We are located in the Student Union building in room 203. Thank you and have a wonderful day.